Chapter 678. The Chaos Pearl secured, Supreme Assault. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At that moment, numerous Supremes burst forth from the Anline realm, immediately seeking the figure of Squid Supreme. However, they found no trace of him. What's going on? Where is Squid Supreme? They questioned. Even if he is exceedingly fast, he couldn't have vanished this swiftly. It's impossible for him to disappear without a trace so suddenly. There must be some mischief at play. I saw it myself. Squid Supreme was hindered by a formation and was subdued by those two Supremes. Indeed, a flash of light and Squid Supreme was gone. It must be connected to those two. Hand over Squid Supreme. Do you really think he too alone can monopolize the Chaos Pearl he possesses? In no time, these Supremes swiftly converged around Lin Fei and the Clairvoyant Supreme. The two exchanged glances, not out of fear but with a sense of unexpected joy. What did you say? The Chaos Pearl is with Squid Supreme, who just fled the Anlan realm. Ha ha ha, Supreme Lin, fortune truly favors us without effort, the Clairvoyant Supreme exclaimed ecstatically. Initially, their intent was merely to not let any Supreme escaping from the Anlan realm go unchecked. Whether or not there was a Chaos Pearl was unknown to both Lin Fei and the Clairvoyant Supreme. It was purely their determination to capture any escaping Supreme that had led them to apprehend Squid Supreme. To their surprise, Squid Supreme actually possessed the Chaos Pearl, and fortunately, they had acted to subdue him. Otherwise, had Squid Supreme managed to escape, all their prolonged efforts and sacrifices would have been in vain. Fortunately, Squid Supreme was suppressed by Lin Fei. Nonetheless, despite what others claimed, Lin Fei could not wholly trust them. He needed to completely eradicate Squid Supreme to ascertain whether he indeed carried the Chaos Pearl. And now the moment was nearly upon them. Squid Supreme was relentlessly oppressed and eroded within Lin Fei's eternal realm. With a final thud, the last particle of Squid Supreme was obliterated. Squid Supreme's screams echoed, yet within the eternal realm, Lin Fei commanded everything. Unknown to all, Squid Supreme had only just perished. Most assumed he had died earlier. Squid Supreme is dead. Lin Fei communicated telepathically to Clairvoyant Supreme. Clairvoyant Supreme, stirred by the news, quickly replied, does Squid Supreme indeed possess the Chaos Pearl? The Chaos Pearl? Lin Fei turned his attention back to the Eternal Realm. He didn't need to look, everything within the Eternal Realm was perceptible to him. After the last particle of Squid Supreme was obliterated, indeed, a pearl the size of an infant's fist emerged from the remains. The Chaos Pearl, undoubtedly. This pearl, Lin Fei pondered, as the power of the Eternal Realm reached out to probe it. Yet, it was in vain. The pearl was integral, impervious even to the might of Lin Fei's Eternal Realm. It seemed indissoluble and indestructible. Clairvoyant Supreme, we should have the Chaos Pearl now, Lin Fei conveyed. It is time to depart. Clairvoyant Supreme's heart surged with elation. They had indeed secured the Chaos Pearl, a windfall by any measure. Considering how briefly they had been in the Anline realm, acquiring the Chaos Pearl so swiftly was nothing short of miraculous. However, their situation was still precarious. Looking around, the eyes of the surrounding Supremes were fixed on Lin Fei, convinced that he had slain Squid Supreme and seized the Chaos Pearl. These Supremes would not let Lin Fei and Clairvoyant Supreme leave easily. What now? Reluctant to hand over the Chaos Pearl, they taunted. Or perhaps you are pondering how to escape. Impatience was beginning to show among the gathered Supremes. Surrounded by so many, Squid Supreme had no choice but to flee in disarray. Even if Lin Fei and Clairvoyant Supreme were both top-tier Supremes, what of it? Flee? Lin Fei chuckled coldly. When did I ever say I would flee? The Chaos Pearl is on my person. Yet you cannot have it. If I choose to leave, none can stop me. Whoever dares to obstruct me shall meet their end. His tone was icy, devoid of hysteria, exuding a calm that instilled fear in others. Such composure in a person who has not lost his sanity, especially one who is a top-tier Supreme, was truly formidable. Dealing with someone like that was not easy. Yet, Lin Fei's domineering stance ignited the fury of many Supremes around him. After all, there were several top-tier Supremes among them, each a formidable force in their own right. Were they to feel Lin Fei? Very well, I would see for myself what ability you possess to slay me, sneered one of the top-tier Supremes as he stepped forward. With each step, a palpable force seemed to emanate from him, a gravitational force. Yes, gravity. It was as if a field of intense gravity surrounded him. Anyone within this Supreme's reach would feel the overwhelming pressure of this gravitational force, which, at the level of a Supreme, was terrifying. Even Lin Fei initially felt the substantial pressure, a testament to the strength of the gravitational force. However, that was all it amounted to. In terms of gravity, Lin Fei might not compare, but mere gravity counted for little. Lin Fei's eternal realm was not limited to just gravitational forces. Eternal light. With a mere thought from Lin Fei, the eternal light sprang into existence, enveloping the area in an instant. Before the astonished eyes of those present, the Supreme, known as Grey Domain Supreme, found himself caught within its relentless grasp without a shred of resistance. In the blink of an eye, enveloped by the luminous energy, Grey Domain Supreme vanished, pulled into the depths of the eternal realm. Murmurs of confusion and alarm echoed amongst the onlookers. What happened? How did Grey Domain Supreme, a top-tier Supreme, just disappear like that? Could it be that light again? All eyes turned to Lin Fei's eternal light, recognizing its extraordinary nature. Whatever or whoever it touched seemed to vanish without a trace, swept away into the eternal realm where they were beyond the reach of others, completely at Lin Fei's mercy. This place is... Grey Domain Supreme, now inside the eternal realm, looked around in astonishment. He realized he was in a world, a unique and magical world capable of restraining even a top-tier Supreme like himself. Break free, he commanded, unleashing the full force of his gravitational power. A halo of gravity radiated outwards, a formidable force that could destabilize the very fabric of any realm space. Such terrifying gravity could cause the collapse of the void in any domain. Could Lin Fei's realm withstand it? As expected, the realm shook under the immense force of Grey Domain Supreme's gravity, the void beginning to crumble. But this was merely a fleeting disturbance within the eternal realm. The collapsed space quickly restored itself, and instead, increasing layers of pressure descended upon Grey Domain Supreme, a burden so great that it threatened to crush him entirely. This can't be. This is impossible. Grey Domain Supreme's screams of despair echoed throughout the eternal realm, his voice filled with disbelief and terror as the relentless pressure seemed to promise his imminent demise. Chapter 679. Massive chaotic behemoths. Dead. Grey Domain Supreme had perished just like that. A top-tier Supreme, utterly devoid of any resistance, was eradicated within mere moments by Lin Fei in the eternal realm, a definitive and irrevocable fall. His cultivation was obliterated and his Tao and essence dissipated into nothingness. A chill ran through the many Supremes present, deterring them from advancing further. The cautionary tale of Grey Domain Supreme was vivid before their eyes. Who would dare provoke Lin Fei and Clairvoyant Supreme now? Clairvoyant Supreme himself felt a shiver of apprehension. Lin Fei's strength far exceeded his expectations. He had thought acquiring the Chaos Pearl would be arduous and maintaining it against the backlash of other Supremes could be even more challenging. Success might have relied partly on luck. However, the ordeal had been unexpectedly simple, but was it truly simple? Clairvoyant Supreme knew better. It was anything but simple. Without Lin Fei's formidable power, securing the Chaos Pearl would have been a daunting task, let alone escaping the clutches of other Supremes. After slaying Grey Domain Supreme, Lin Fei looked up, his gaze sweeping across the crowd as he spoke calmly. Who else? His tone was steady, his voice not particularly loud. Yet, as his words echoed, a hushed silence fell over the multitude of Supremes. The once bubbling whisper ceased abruptly with the fall of Grey Domain Supreme. Many Supremes looked towards Lin Fei with eyes full of wariness. If Lin Fei had merely defeated Grey Domain Supreme, they might not have been so frightened, so utterly still. But Lin Fei hadn't just defeated him, he had dominated and decimated him without allowing any form of retaliation, a prowess that starkly surpassed many of the Supremes by not just one but several degrees. How could they possibly dare to obstruct Lin Fei now? Even the allure of the Chaos Pearl was tempered by the reality of inadequate strength. If there are no objections, we shall take our leave, Lin Fei declared, his voice devoid of any real desire to annihilate all the assembled Supremes. Given the extensive implications involving so many powerful beings, Lin Fei was not inclined to make unnecessary enemies. This venture had been merely to assist Clairvoyant Supreme in acquiring the Chaos Pearl. High visibility could certainly serve as a deterrent to others, but to truly antagonize so many Supremes would be unwarranted. Thus, Lin Fei stepped forward, and in an instant, he and Clairvoyant Supreme transformed into two streaks of light, vanishing into the depths of chaos. The remaining Supremes exchanged glances, their expressions complicated. They had competed fiercely for a long time and paid substantial prices, only to inadvertently pave the way for another success. Yet Lin Fei was just ahead, potentially within reach should they choose to pursue. But who would dare? Let it be, one murmured as the pursuit of the Chaos Pearl concluded. This orb was not ours to claim. This man, Lin Fei, unbelievably, the Chaos has birthed another nearly invincible Supreme. Could he be another Doomsday Supreme? Expressions of wonder and resignation mingled among the crowd. A Doomsday Supreme stood almost unmatched among the Supremes, having slain countless top-tier ones and ranking just below the Master of Chaos. Despite this title, Doomsday Supremes carried a flaw. No matter their efforts, they fell short of ascending to Master of Chaos, thus earning the moniker Invincible Supreme, a Supreme inane, unable to attain the pinnacle of Chaos Lordship. Yet, this distinction mattered little to most. To them, an Invincible Supreme bore no practical difference from a Master of Chaos. Both were equally untouchable. With one Doomsday Supreme already unsettling the balance of chaos, the emergence of another could be disruptive, another speculated with a slight chuckle. I wonder how the Doomsday Supreme would react upon hearing of Lin Fei. Perhaps he is already aware. As the Supremes grappled with their mixed feelings, some harbored a lingering dissatisfaction despite recognizing their inferior tactics in the struggle for the Chaos Pearl. Their inability to best Lin Fei in power didn't dampen their resolve completely. While they dared not confront Lin Fei directly, they saw no harm in nudging more capable entities into the fray, like the Doomsday Supreme. They subtly fanned the flames of rivalry by spreading tales of Lin Fei's unmatched prowess, even drawing daring comparisons to the Doomsday Supreme, hoping it would provoke a reaction. Back in Kunyu City, Lin Fei and Clairvoyant Supreme returned to the calm of Clairvoyant's residence. The Chaos Pearl, Lin Fei announced, extending his hand. Nestled in his palm lay a translucent orb, the size of an infant's fist, radiating a captivating light. The orb's allure was undeniable. Clairvoyant Supreme's eyes ignited with desire as he gazed at the orb in Lin Fei's palm, his hand inching forward. However, Lin Fei's sudden tightening grip on the orb halted Clairvoyant's advance. Raising his eyes to meet Lin Fei's steady gaze, Clairvoyant understood the unspoken message. He retracted his hand, offering a smile. Supreme Lin, you have secured the Chaos Pearl for me. As per our agreement, I owe you information on the chaotic behemoths, not just one but several. Yet, I must caution, the intelligence comes with certain risks. Lin Fei remained silent, prompting Clairvoyant Supreme to realize that mere promises wouldn't suffice. The exact location is hard to pinpoint, Clairvoyant continued. You'll understand once you accompany me there. Resolved, Lin Fei and Clairvoyant Supreme embarked once again, departing from Kunyu City and voyaging deep into the chaotic void. The journey spanned farther and took longer than their prior venture to the Anlan domain, lasting over 2 months. We are here, Clairvoyant Supreme finally declared, halting their flight. His gaze pierced into a peculiar stretch of the chaotic void ahead that appeared collapsed, not quite in disarray but rather forming a unique void, heavy with the essence of chaos. It seemed like a realm, yet not entirely so. Within, Lin Fei sensed auras eerily familiar, chaotic behemoths, unmistakably, and not just one. What exactly is this place? Lin Fei couldn't help but inquire, his eyes reflecting a keen intrigue. Clairvoyant Supreme took a deep breath before explaining, we all know that chaotic behemoths are not creatures of community. In fact, they hardly bear any semblance of amiability towards one another. Typically, encounters between two chaotic behemoths mean battle, often to the death. However, this place is different, he continued. Here, numerous chaotic behemoths coexist peacefully, because this is the realm of the chaotic behemoth king, a creature even the Master of Chaos dare not provoke. Hearing this, Lin Fei's expression shifted dramatically. Chapter 680. The King of Chaotic Behemoths. The King of Chaotic Behemoths. Lin Fei's eyes narrowed, a chill passing through them as he processed Clairvoyant Supreme's words. Even the Lords of Chaos dare not provoke it, and you brought me here. This isn't just dangerous, it's a death sentence. His gaze hardened, carrying a faint glimmer of murderous intent. If Clairvoyant Supreme didn't provide a satisfactory explanation, Lin Fei was not about to hand over the Chaos Pearl. To Lin Fei, this seemed like a deceitful game of words, and he was not one to be trifled with. Clairvoyant Supreme, noticing the killing intent in Lin Fei's eyes, quickly clarified, "Supreme Lin, you misunderstand. It's true that the King of Chaotic Behemoths resides here, but that doesn't mean there's no opportunity. If I propose this trade, I must believe there's a chance to capture a Chaotic Behemoth. The king has been slumbering for countless millennia and has not awoken in ages," Clairvoyant Supreme continued. "As long as we are not extraordinarily unlucky to wake it, there should be no issue. The real concern is whether we can withstand the Chaotic Behemoths themselves. There are not just one or two, but dozens. Even for a top-tier Supreme, it's uncertain whether they can withstand so many." Reassured somewhat by Clairvoyant Supreme's words, Lin Fei nodded but remained cautious, his trust not easily won. Observing the surroundings, he maintained a vigilant guard. He finally spoke, "I'll give you the Chaos Pearl. Clairvoyant Supreme, I hope all you've said is true." His tone was measured, devoid of overt threats. It was unnecessary. Clairvoyant Supreme knew full well the extent of Lin Fei's capabilities. Any deceit would spell his doomsday, whether in Kunyi City or beyond. Others might hesitate to act in Kunyi City, but Lin Fei was different. With a sweep of his eternal realm, all of Kunyi City fell silent, enveloped entirely by his formidable power. At that moment, even if the Chaos Pearl was refined, unless one became the master of chaos, Clairvoyant Supreme would undoubtedly perish. Clairvoyant Supreme was not one to gamble with his life lightly. Finally having secured the Chaos Pearl, he was exultant, and with a smile, he bade farewell, "Supreme Lin, I wish you all the best." With those words, he transformed into a streak of light and departed the chaotic expanse. The King of Chaotic Behemoths. Lin Fei muttered under his breath. Beyond the threat of the king, this place was indeed ideal for him. It teemed with chaotic behemoths, making it incredibly easy for Lin Fei to capture them without the need to wander far. Moreover, the normally solitary chaotic behemoths were strangely cohabitating here, a clear sign of the slumbering King of Chaotic Behemoths' influence. Let's see if the King of Chaotic Behemoths truly sleeps, Lin Fei decided to test the waters. He wasn't about to plunge in recklessly. A hum resonated as Lin Fei detached a particle that took on his form. The avatar swiftly dived into the void that housed the chaotic behemoths. In the next moment, the avatar twisted through dimensions and entered a bizarre new world. It wasn't exactly a world, but more a city reminiscent of Kunyi City, a city of chaotic behemoths. An alien life form came a voice, likely one of the behemoths. A cultivator from the chaos, perhaps. Here, the flesh of cultivators is quite the delicacy. Devour. As soon as Lin Fei's avatar entered the world of the chaotic behemoths, the ground seemed to spin. A monstrous maw, seemingly boundless, loomed before him and swallowed Lin Fei's particle avatar in one gulp, causing it to vanish without a trace. Did my avatar just die? In the midst of chaos, Lin Fei witnessed everything his particle avatar had experienced. The world of chaotic behemoths proved perilous indeed. No sooner had he entered than he faced an assault. The behemoth recognized Lin Fei as a cultivator from chaos. It devoured him without hesitation. However, in that brief moment, Lin Fei had gleaned some understanding of the world of chaotic behemoths. He sensed no particularly dangerous entities or forces, even though he emitted an aura of chaos. There were no fearsome beings awakening or fixating on him, just a single ordinary chaotic behemoth. For an ordinary supreme, perhaps that chaotic behemoth would pose a significant threat, a slight misstep leading to being devoured. But Lin Fei was different. He welcomed more chaotic behemoths attacking, attempting to devour him. It would only allow his eternal realm to improve more. There may be only one chance here, Lin Fei contemplated. Thus, I must seize as many chaotic behemoths as possible in this opportunity. Otherwise, if they become cautious or awaken the King of Chaotic Behemoths next time, it will become troublesome. Lin Fei didn't plan to keep coming back here to hunt chaotic behemoths indefinitely. The King of Chaotic Behemoths, even in slumber, would eventually be roused by the chaotic behemoths. Even if Lin Fei succeeded multiple times, a single failure in the presence of the awakened king would mean disaster, possibly even death. So, Lin Fei wouldn't take such a risk. He had this one precious opportunity and needed to make the most of it. Since that's the case, Lin Fei hesitated no longer. With a swift motion, he plunged into the world of chaotic behemoths. Inside, the behemoth that had just enjoyed his particle avatar's flavor seemed content, squinting its eyes in pleasure, still mumbling about the deliciousness of cultivators and yearning to devour more. However, it quickly dismissed the idea of leaving, considering the king of chaotic behemoths and the rules of this place. This was a safe haven where it could rest and live without fear. Everything here was regulated by the presence of the king of chaotic behemoths. Swoosh, another figure appeared before the behemoth. Is this another chaos cultivator? The behemoth paused in slight confusion, wondering how yet another cultivator had found this place. Eternal light. Lin Fei wasted no time. Upon spotting the behemoth, the eternal light burst forth from him, sweeping grandly toward the behemoth. Swish. In an instant, the behemoth was enveloped and pulled into Lin Fei's eternal realm. Chapter 681. The eternal realm confronts the top-tier chaotic behemoth. One has been subdued. Yet, it is insufficient. Lin Fei did not slay the chaotic behemoth. He merely suppressed it using the power of the eternal realm. After all, even if a chaotic behemoth could be felled by Lin Fei's eternal realm, such an act would require time. Moreover, it demanded the full force of the eternal realm to execute. Now was not the moment for slaying chaotic behemoths. It was crucial to swiftly capture and subdue more chaotic behemoths. This was paramount. Should he miss this opportunity, Lin Fei would need to traverse the chaos in search of other chaotic behemoths. Thus, he placed great importance on this chance. He must capitalize on this opportunity to secure enough chaotic behemoths. 1, 2, or even 3 would not suffice. He needed more chaotic behemoths. Ideally, 8 or 10. After all, Lin Fei had only this one chance. He absolutely could not afford to waste it. With determination, Lin Fei, in the next instant, shot towards the distance. He had sensed it. There were chaotic behemoths afar. In this world, chaotic behemoths were almost ubiquitous, even far exceeding Lin Fei's expectations. Previously, the clairvoyant supreme had mentioned there might be dozens of chaotic behemoths here. Dozens of chaotic behemoths were already considered an astronomical number. Especially within the chaos where even encountering several was rare. Yet, now Lin Fei realized it was not just dozens of chaotic behemoths, but hundreds, even thousands. This world was truly a realm of chaotic behemoths. Lin Fei's heart surged with emotion. Yet, he was acutely aware this was his only chance. Thus, he absolutely could not squander this opportunity. But he must act swiftly. Moreover, he could only afford to strike decisively. He absolutely could not afford any delay. Soon, Lin Fei halted. Before him, 5 chaotic behemoths appeared. Yes, precisely 5. Upon seeing Lin Fei, these chaotic behemoths were momentarily startled. It seemed strange to them. How could there be a cultivator of chaos? Without a moment's hesitation, Lin Fei acted. Even to prevent these chaotic behemoths from causing any great commotion, Lin Fei straightforwardly deployed the illusory realm, accompanied by the eternal light. Buzz. The illusory realm descended. Instantly, the expressions of these chaotic behemoths shifted slightly, then became bewildered. Such was the effect of the illusory realm. Able to intimidate a supreme, let alone a chaotic behemoth. It is known that in terms of will, a chaotic behemoth is somewhat inferior to a cultivator's supreme. Lin Fei's illusory realm, naturally, proved effective. Moreover, it was accompanied by the eternal light. Swoosh! Subdued by the illusory realm, these chaotic behemoths had no power left to resist. Caught by Lin Fei's eternal light, they were swept straight into the eternal realm. 5 chaotic behemoths. Along with the previously subdued one, that made 6 chaotic behemoths. That was a full 6. Continue. Yet, Lin Fei was still not satisfied. He continued to fly at great speed towards more chaotic behemoths. However, the fluctuations from the illusory realm and those from the eternal realm eventually caused a certain disturbance. An incomparably massive beast lay in a vast lake, seemingly bathing in the lake and thoroughly enjoying itself. Splash! Suddenly, the chaotic behemoth raised its head. There is the scent of a cultivator of chaos. And the speed is fast, showing no sign of departure. After so many years, has another cultivator of chaos come? Since you've come and do not wish to leave, then stay forever. Boon. Then, the chaotic behemoth rose. Its massive body flew out of the lake, turning instantly into a streak of light, disappearing without a trace. At that moment, Lin Fei unleashed the eternal light. He recklessly swept up every chaotic behemoth he encountered into the eternal realm. Moreover, Lin Fei's audacity grew ever larger. Fittingly, Lin Fei's eternal realm was itself immensely vast. Not just subduing a few chaotic behemoths and even subduing dozens, in truth, had little impact on the eternal realm. Lin Fei had subdued several chaotic behemoths. It appeared to be a considerable number. Even the continuous effort seemed to have consumed much time. But in reality, from the moment Lin Fei began to subdue the behemoths to their suppression into the eternal realm was merely a matter of a few breaths. And now, Lin Fei was still subduing more. 7, 8, 9, 10. However, these were merely ordinary chaotic behemoths. Lin Fei had not encountered any of the top-tier chaotic behemoths. But Lin Fei could not force such encounters. He could not specifically seek out the top-tier chaotic behemoths. He could only take things as they came. Whenever he saw any chaotic behemoth, Lin Fei would subdue it immediately. It was uncertain how much time had passed. Suddenly, Lin Fei looked up. He had just subdued several chaotic behemoths. But suddenly, he felt an unprecedented pressure. It seemed perilous. Swish! Lin Fei sensed it. A chaotic behemoth. It was an incomparably massive behemoth, emitting a terrifying aura. Not the kind found in ordinary chaotic behemoths, but that of a top-tier chaotic behemoth. Even stronger than the typical top-tier ones. However, Lin Fei did not flee immediately. He could sense that this chaotic behemoth was not the king of chaotic behemoths. Moreover, if he could also subdue this chaotic behemoth, wouldn't it match the strength of at least 6 or even 10 chaotic behemoths? Lin Fei could already feel his time was running out. This world had become aware of his presence. It would not allow him to keep subduing chaotic behemoths indefinitely. Perhaps this was his last chance to subdue a chaotic behemoth. So, if it could be this chaotic behemoth, that would be a boon. This is the last chaotic behemoth. Once subdued, I must leave immediately. And it's a top-tier chaotic behemoth, also an opportunity. Lin Fei murmured under his breath. In the next moment, he did not retreat but advanced. Boon. Lin Fei instantly flew towards the chaotic behemoth. But the top-tier chaotic behemoth, seeing Lin Fei charging at it, a flicker of surprise crossed its gaze. Cultivator from chaos. You dare to bring turmoil to our world. This is not a place where you can run wild. Swallow. This chaotic behemoth regarded all beings with a haughty gaze, seemingly dismissing Lin Fei from consideration. Even though Lin Fei had already subdued numerous chaotic behemoths, the creature remained confident, a testament to the extraordinary nature of this chaotic behemoth. Buzz. The next moment, the chaotic behemoth truly made its move. And it was terrifying right from the start. The chaotic behemoth opened its massive maw, transforming, as if into a black hole, continuously attempting to swallow Lin Fei. The fearsome suction seemed intent on devouring Lin Fei completely. Moreover, Lin Fei could clearly feel that he must not fly into the creature's mouth. Otherwise, he might die. This intuition was crystal clear to Lin Fei. This was an extraordinary chaotic behemoth. Perhaps its stomach was its strongest asset. Even though Lin Fei possessed the eternal realm, he dared not truly let himself be swallowed. Think to devour me? Then try to see if you can swallow the eternal realm itself. Eternal realm, stay. A fierce light flashed in Lin Fei's eyes. Boom. The next instant, Lin Fei transformed into the world. This time, it was not merely the eternal light. It was the eternal realm. Lin Fei directly transformed into the eternal realm, the formidable eternal realm, sweeping majestically towards the chaotic behemoth. Chapter 682, 28 Chaotic Behemoths. Boom. With fierce determination, Lin Fei's eternal realm charged directly at the chaotic behemoth and struck it hard. The terrifying force rippled through the air in tiny waves. Thud. A muffled sound echoed as the chaotic behemoth shuddered throughout its body. Then, its eyes filled with disbelief, it stared at Lin Fei. Capture. Without a second thought, the eternal realm struck fiercely and actually managed to repel the chaotic behemoth. Then, Lin Fei's eternal realm directly enveloped and drew the chaotic behemoth into itself. Rumble. This chaotic behemoth was indeed extraordinary. Even when ensnared within the eternal realm, it could still struggle violently. Lin Fei's eternal realm might not completely suppress it. But now, Lin Fei lacked the extra strength and time to suppress this top-tier chaotic behemoth. He had to leave, for Lin Fei faintly felt a tremor within his heart as if a profound sense of danger had suddenly arisen. This made Lin Fei think of a possibility. The king of chaotic behemoths. Perhaps the battle Lin Fei had just fought with this top-tier chaotic behemoth had already awakened the king of chaotic behemoths. The king of chaotic behemoths was about to awake. Go. Without a second thought, Lin Fei prepared to leave this world at once. Zoom. In the next moment, Lin Fei turned into a streak of light. He had already flown out of this world and into the chaos. But in the chaos, Lin Fei felt a new sense of peril. This threat loomed constantly over him as if a calamity could strike at any moment. Go. Lin Fei dared not delay. Quickly turning into a streak of light, he flew towards Kunyu City. Kunyu City. When Lin Fei returned to Kunyu City, it was already 2 months later. His expression was calm. Yet, during those 2 months, he dared not pause for a moment. The sense of danger that loomed in his mind persisted throughout. Only when Lin Fei entered Kunyu City did that feeling of danger finally vanish. This confirmed that only within Kunyu City was Lin Fei truly safe. With the sense of danger that reached him no matter the distance, Lin Fei had a fair idea of the cause now. The king of chaotic behemoths. It must have been the king of chaotic behemoths that brought this obscure threat to Lin Fei. Otherwise, it was impossible that Lin Fei, after flying through the chaos for about 2 months, would still feel endangered. Only the king of chaotic behemoths had such capability. After all, the king of chaotic behemoths is said to rival even the masters of chaos. Even the masters of chaos would not dare provoke it lightly. However, Kunyu City was different. It was under the watch of a master of chaos. Even the king of chaotic behemoths, upon reaching Kunyu City, could not harm Lin Fei. Thus, upon his return to Kunyu City, Lin Fei's sense of danger disappeared. Sigh. Lin Fei breathed a sigh of relief. I finally returned. Lin Fei had been under immense pressure on this journey. Fortunately, he had returned safely. And the gains were unimaginably great. Let me count just how many chaotic behemoths I've subdued. Lin Fei wanted to see how many he had actually subdued. After all, he did not know exactly how many chaotic behemoths he had subdued. He only vaguely remembered. The number he had subdued was certainly not small. It might have exceeded 20. Thus, Lin Fei began to count the subdued chaotic behemoths. 1, 3, 5, 8, 10. 28 chaotic behemoths. I've subdued so many. And there's one top-tier chaotic behemoth, not just any foremost but something beyond. A sharp gleam flickered in Lin Fei's eyes. A top-tier behemoth, at least equivalent to over 6 chaotic behemoths. Even comparable to 10 chaotic behemoths. Subduing this one chaotic behemoth was an unexpected delight for Lin Fei. Of course, this chaotic behemoth did not know how strong Lin Fei's eternal realm was. Even though it tried everything, it could not escape the eternal realm. 27 chaotic behemoths could increase my eternal realm cultivation progress by about 27%. Adding that one top-tier chaotic behemoth, I could increase my cultivation progress by about 6% to 10%. In the end, my eternal realm could even approach 50%. Lin Fei felt an immense surge of excitement within, approaching 50%. Of course, this was assuming Lin Fei could truly integrate such an abundance of chaotic behemoth essence. Let's begin. Lin Fei took a deep breath. He hesitated no longer. Boom. The next moment, Lin Fei was fully focused. He concentrated all his attention, all his energy, and began to mobilize the power of the eternal realm. He methodically obliterated the chaotic behemoths. Thump, thump, thump. One by one, the chaotic behemoths were obliterated by Lin Fei's eternal realm. and the essence of their flesh and blood began to nourish Lin Fei's eternal realm. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Now, Lin Fei had ample time to slowly digest the essence of these chaotic behemoths. And this essence was incredibly beneficial to the eternal realm. Indeed, the eternal realm was almost constantly improving. Previously at only 11% cultivation progress. Now it was skyrocketing. 12%, 13%, 14%, 15%, 16%. With each percentage increase in the eternal realm, Lin Fei's power surged tremendously. A month later, Lin Fei's eternal realm cultivation progress had jumped from 11% to 38%, a total increase of 27%. In Lin Fei's eternal realm, there remained only one chaotic behemoth. That was the extraordinary top-tier chaotic behemoth. At this moment, within Lin Fei's eternal realm, Lin Fei watched the chaotic behemoth before him. The creature seemed to sense what it was about to face. This top-tier chaotic behemoth could not help but speak, "Human cultivator, your widespread slaughter of chaotic behemoths might be overlooked elsewhere. But you have been capturing them in the city of behemoths. Do you realize that you have committed a great taboo? The great king of chaotic behemoths will certainly not forgive you. No matter where you flee, the king of chaotic behemoths will remember your scent and will surely slay you." The tone of the top-tier chaotic behemoth was deep, filled with hatred. City of behemoths. So, that place was the city of behemoths. Perhaps your king of chaotic behemoths might avenge you. But this is Kunyu City. Even the king of chaotic behemoths would not dare to run wild here. So, you are doomed not to see the king of chaotic behemoths slay me. Lin Fei's gaze was icy. The next moment, he hesitated no longer. Buzz. The power of the eternal realm erupted fully. Majestically, it rolled towards the chaotic behemoth. Roar. The chaotic behemoth struggled violently. It was shaking intensely, even causing the void to shatter. Of course, compared to before, Lin Fei's eternal realm was now many times stronger. Previously, this top-tier chaotic behemoth might have destabilized Lin Fei's eternal realm. But now, it could only cause the void to collapse. It was merely wishful thinking to even shake the eternal realm. This showed the astonishingly rapid increase in the power of Lin Fei's eternal realm. Annihilate. Lin Fei uttered softly. Boom. The next moment, the massive body of the top-tier chaotic behemoth nearly exploded on cue, completely turned to dust. The top-tier chaotic behemoth, just like that, died. Completely obliterated. Meanwhile, Lin Fei's eternal realm was frantically absorbing the essence of the chaotic behemoth's flesh and blood. The eternal realm began its transformation anew. Chapter 683. The Supreme of Doomsday finally appears. Originally, Lin Fei's eternal realm cultivation progress had reached 38%. His estimation for the top-tier chaotic behemoth's essence was that it could boost his eternal realm's cultivation progress by about 6% to 10% at most. But now, Lin Fei's eternal realm was continuously absorbing the essence of this top-tier chaotic behemoth. And the eternal realm was violently shaking. It was expanding. And it was expanding rapidly. Moreover, the cultivation progress was also increasing wildly. 38%, 40%, 42%, 45%, 48%. Finally, Lin Fei's eternal realm jolted fiercely. The vast eternal realm seemed to have undergone a transformation. From the inside out, everything had transformed. Especially the divine demons within the eternal realm. They all seemed to have grown stronger, albeit subtly. System. Lin Fei checked the changes in the eternal realm immediately. Host, Lin Fei. Martial realm, martial ancestor. World level, true immortal level, progress 51%. Illusory realm, supreme level. Lin Fei saw that the system indicated his world level had now reached 51%. This was over 50%, no wonder there was a transformation. Lin Fei was well aware of how staggeringly strong he was now. Although his system's displayed realm was still martial ancestor, Lin Fei did not truly believe he was just a martial ancestor. Lin Fei had long been on par with a top-tier supreme. He could even slay a top-tier supreme. He was clear on that once his eternal realm cultivation progress reached 100%, he could transform into the chaos realm. At that time, Lin Fei's realm might become supreme. But his strength would probably not be inferior to that of a Master of Chaos. He might even rival a true Master of Chaos. After all, to truly, fully control a Chaos Realm and to be able to exert 100% of the Chaos Realm's power was no small feat. Lin Fei was no ordinary martial ancestor, and once transformed, he naturally would not be an ordinary Supreme. The Eternal Realm has transformed again. My cultivation progress has reached 51%. So, how strong am I now? Perhaps not comparable to a Master of Chaos. But on the Supreme level, there should be no one who can match me. Perhaps only the Doomsday Supreme might stand a slight chance against me. Lin Fei muttered softly, a sharp gleam flickering in his eyes. The Doomsday Supreme, after all, is not just any Supreme. It was even called the Invincible Supreme. Just below a Master of Chaos. Even in the eyes of other Supremes, there's hardly a difference between the Doomsday Supreme and a Master of Chaos. This shows the immense power of the Doomsday Supreme. Lin Fei had never met the Doomsday Supreme. But previously, Lin Fei could slay a top-tier Supreme. Now, with his Eternal Realm transformed again, Lin Fei felt he should also be considered an Invincible Supreme. Could an Invincible Supreme destroy a Chaos Realm? Lin Fei wasn't sure. But if he could destroy a Chaos Realm, then the Dark Demon Lord wouldn't be much of a threat. Lin Fei calculated carefully. Actually, he had been back in the Chaos for almost a year now. After all, traveling from the Divine Realm, the round trip would take about 2 years. He could only stay in the Chaos for 1 year. Now the time was almost up. At most, he had 2 to 3 months left. When the time comes to return to the Divine Realm to confront the Dark Demon Lord, he would know if his current strength could resolve the Dark Demon Lord. With just a few months left, Lin Fei naturally was not in a rush. If he could completely transform the Eternal Realm into the Chaos Realm, his chances would be even greater. But that would require many chaotic behemoths. And the city of behemoths. Lin Fei now absolutely dared not go there. Even the Chaos itself, Lin Fei dared not venture out at will. Who knows if the King of Chaotic Behemoths would keep an eye on Lin Fei? It's safest in Kunyu City. Moreover, to obtain flesh essence, it wasn't necessary for Lin Fei to personally obtain the essence. He could also trade. Both parties, each taking what they need. Lin Fei felt, with his current strength, he was powerful enough to have more Supremes bring him a significant amount of essence. Thus, Lin Fei went to the task hall. The task hall was bustling with activity. Many people were moving through the hall, mostly Supremes. Only Supremes could venture in the Chaos, they naturally would post or take on many missions. This was really just a form of mutual trade. Only in Kunyu City, strangers would feel secure enough to post missions and trade with one another. However, inside the task hall, Lin Fei saw many missions concerning Chaos Pearls. Snatching Chaos Pearls can be traded with anything. Reward offered for Chaos Pearls in the possession of the Clairvoyant Supreme. No matter the method, as long as you can obtain a Chaos Pearl, any exchange is acceptable. Clairvoyant Supreme, Supreme Lin Fei, they took away the Chaos Pearls. Not only were there missions, but many Supremes within the task hall were discussing, and their discussions were all about Chaos Pearls. The Chaos Pearl, who would have thought the Clairvoyant Supreme would get it? The Clairvoyant Supreme has been planning for so long, it's only natural he obtained the Chaos Pearl. Natural. The Clairvoyant Supreme only set up a warning formation outside the Tranquil Domain. Without Supreme Lin Fei, could the Clairvoyant Supreme ever have obtained the Chaos Pearl? Indeed, that mysterious Supreme Lin Fei is the key. It's said that Supreme Lin Fei can slay the top-tier Supremes. He brutally killed several top Supremes to snatch the Chaos Pearl. Yes, Supreme Lin Fei didn't just get lucky obtaining the Chaos Pearl. It was with supreme strength, sweeping away the invincible, that he obtained it. This Supreme Lin Fei, he might just be another Doomsday Supreme. It's said that the Doomsday Supreme has also returned to Kunyu City, reportedly for the Chaos Pearl. At this time, many Supremes were abuzz with discussion. The information about Supreme Lin Fei was everywhere. Yet, oddly, Lin Fei was standing right in front of these Supremes. But they were indifferent. They simply didn't recognize Lin Fei. It was just some rumors, after all. The number of people who had actually seen Lin Fei, who knew him, was very few. Lin Fei remained unfazed. Clearly, the Chaos Pearl was very important. The Clairvoyant Supreme obtaining the Chaos Pearl had quickly spread throughout the entire chaos. Even Lin Fei's fame had echoed throughout the chaos. Crucially, a single Chaos Pearl had even attracted the Doomsday Supreme. Doomsday Supreme? Lin Fei muttered under his breath, a flicker of something unusual in his eyes. He had heard about the Doomsday Supreme many times. Many referred to the Doomsday Supreme as the Invincible Supreme. Even Lin Fei was interested in meeting the Doomsday Supreme properly. In the courtyard of the Clairvoyant Supreme. At this moment, a special person sat before the Clairvoyant Supreme. The expression of the Clairvoyant Supreme was extremely grave. Because this Supreme was no ordinary Supreme. It was the Doomsday Supreme. Universally recognized in the chaos as the Invincible Supreme. Doomsday Supreme, could it be you are also interested in the Chaos Pearl? However, I fear you will be disappointed. No matter what, I will not hand over the Chaos Pearl. This is my only chance to achieve the status of a Master of Chaos. How critical is the opportunity for ascension? You must understand, Doomsday Supreme. The Clairvoyant Supreme was very solemn. In reality, he was also very nervous. The arrival of the Doomsday Supreme himself, other than for the Chaos Pearl, what else could it be? Though the Clairvoyant Supreme was a top Supreme, he was well aware that he was far too far from the Doomsday Supreme. The Doomsday Supreme's visit was not a good sign. Most likely, it was for the Chaos Pearl. Chaos Pearl? I am not interested. I came to find you to look for someone. Supreme Lin Fei. I trust the Clairvoyant Supreme, you are familiar. I want to meet Lin Fei. The Doomsday Supreme's gaze was piercing as he stared at the Clairvoyant Supreme. Chapter 684. The clash between Lin Fei and the Doomsday Supreme. Lin Fei. The Clairvoyant Supreme felt a tightening in his heart. He hadn't expected the Doomsday Supreme's objective to be Lin Fei, not the Chaos Pearl. But why did the Doomsday Supreme want to meet Lin Fei? If I may ask, Doomsday Supreme, do you have business with Supreme Lin? The Clairvoyant Supreme inquired. The Doomsday Supreme replied with a half smile, Clairvoyant Supreme, are you aware that many have paid a great price for me to kill Supreme Lin? Is that so? I suspect it's not just about dealing with Supreme Lin, am I also on the list? The Clairvoyant Supreme was not surprised. It was quite normal for other Supremes to invite the Doomsday Supreme, after all, within the ranks of the Supremes, he is considered the Invincible Supreme. If the Doomsday Supreme took action, failure was out of the question. Indeed, some have asked me to kill you and Lin Fei, the Doomsday Supreme admitted with a slight smile. However, those individuals are fixated on the Chaos Pearl and cannot offer anything of equivalent value. As for Lin Fei, I actually wish to meet him myself. After all these years, very few Supremes still interest me, and Lin Fei is one of them. Besides, you needn't worry. In Kunyu City, who would dare to make a move? Even I would not dare. The Doomsday Supreme spoke sincerely, and the Clairvoyant Supreme did not feel that he was being deceived. There was simply no need. In the entire chaos, if there was anyone the Doomsday Supreme needed to be wary of, it was undoubtedly only the Masters of Chaos. No Supreme could make the Doomsday Supreme feel apprehensive. Hence, it was beneath him to lie, there was no point. The Clairvoyant Supreme thought for a moment before nodding, if the Doomsday Supreme wishes to meet Supreme Lin, you'll have to wait a bit. I'll contact Supreme Lin and get back to you. Very well, feel free to ask, the Doomsday Supreme replied, waiting patiently. Thus, the Clairvoyant Supreme immediately sent a message to Lin Fei. At that moment, Lin Fei was in the task hall. He hadn't found any tasks related to chaotic behemoths. His communicator began to vibrate. Picking it up, he saw it was a message from the Clairvoyant Supreme. Since their last parting, the Clairvoyant Supreme had hardly been in contact with Lin Fei. A sudden message now certainly meant something was up. The Doomsday Supreme wants to meet me. A flicker of light passed through Lin Fei's eyes. The Doomsday Supreme? This name was all too familiar. Lin Fei had heard it countless times. The Doomsday Supreme was acclaimed as the foremost under the chaos, dubbed the Invincible Supreme. Even the Dark Demon Lord had sought the Doomsday Supreme's intervention to kill Lin Fei. Lin Fei knew he had offended too many Supremes, especially during the battle for the Chaos Pearl. Countless factions wanted him dead, which was to be expected. Publicly, aside from the Masters of Chaos, perhaps only the Doomsday Supreme could now slay Lin Fei. Therefore, the arrival of the Doomsday Supreme at this juncture was particularly delicate. But that was the Lin Fei of the past when his eternal realm was only at 11%. Back then, he might not have withstood the Doomsday Supreme. However, now his eternal realm had reached 51% of its cultivation progress and had even transformed again. Lin Fei felt that no Supreme could stand in his way now, not even the Doomsday Supreme. This was absolute confidence. Now that the Doomsday Supreme had sought him out, Lin Fei was curious to see if the Doomsday Supreme was as legendary as rumored. With that thought, Lin Fei promptly responded. Whoosh! Lin Fei transformed into a streak of light, heading straight for the Clairvoyant Supreme's residence. Supreme Lin has responded. Doomsday Supreme, Supreme Lin has agreed to meet, the Clairvoyant Supreme said with a slightly odd expression, but upon reflection, it seemed expected. He had come to understand Lin Fei's character quite well, an extremely proud individual. Even facing the Doomsday Supreme, Lin Fei, deep down, held no particular concern. Now that the Doomsday Supreme had approached him, why would Lin Fei refuse? Good, then I will wait here, the Doomsday Supreme nodded, settling into a calm demeanor and closing his eyes to wait quietly. Whoosh! It wasn't long before a figure appeared in the courtyard. Clairvoyant Supreme. Supreme Lin. Upon seeing this figure, the Clairvoyant Supreme's eyes immediately sparkled with an unusual gleam. Simultaneously, the Doomsday Supreme also opened his eyes abruptly. Swish! Their gazes met, and even in the void, it seemed as if they clashed silently. For the first time, the Doomsday Supreme felt pressure. Yes, for the first time facing another Supreme, the Doomsday Supreme felt pressure. This was the first time he felt this way since his power had increased. Supreme Lin, it seems I have underestimated you. I never expected you to reach this stage. It's unbelievable. I thought only through unique circumstances could someone achieve this step. It appears I have underestimated the chaos itself. A formidable aura emanated from the Doomsday Supreme. As this aura manifested, the Clairvoyant Supreme suddenly realized he was trembling all over, an uncontrollable fear gripping him. Indeed, it was fear. The Clairvoyant Supreme was also a top-tier Supreme, and in this world, only the Masters of Chaos had ever instilled fear in him. That used to be the case, at least. But now, the aura from the Doomsday Supreme also evoked fear in him, a presence he knew he couldn't contend with. This was the true essence of an invincible Supreme. Lin Fei felt the aura of the Doomsday Supreme as well. What a Doomsday Supreme, he acknowledged. Truly worthy of the title Invincible Supreme, such an aura indeed far surpasses that of ordinary Supremes. Even the foremost Supremes are no match in front of the Doomsday Supreme. This is entirely another level of existence. Lin Fei sensed the difference between the Doomsday Supreme and other Supremes. Although they seemed all to be Supremes, the difference was immense. Only a further transformation would allow him to match the Doomsday Supreme, not to the level of a Master of Chaos, but to that unique tier of invincible Supremes that the Doomsday Supreme occupied, a fact unknown to many. Now, Lin Fei understood. However, he felt only a faint threat, not fear. Because he had already transformed. When his eternal realm reached 51% cultivation progress, Lin Fei's eternal realm had undergone a transformation. A vibration began to emanate from Lin Fei, and even the shadow of the eternal realm faintly appeared behind him. As the shadow of the eternal realm emerged, a similarly terrifying aura appeared around Lin Fei. The two formidable auras collided in the void, seemingly distorting the very fabric of space itself. For the first time, a look of surprise appeared on the face of the Doomsday Supreme.